Hello Turtles! In this video I'm going to introduce myself and tell you all of the things I've learned throughout my indie game development adventure so far. Stay tuned to learn from the traps I fell in so you can avoid them on your own quest. You will learn how important the quality of a game is, followed quickly by how it will explode the scope of your project, a process to pick the best game idea, and how learning things can be motivational. I am Tim Bodette, a part-time indie game developer focused on racing games. Arcade racers, combat racers, drifting, obstacle avoidance. If you can race it, I will build it. The Dream Project is a physically accurate racing simulator, much like Live for Speed or iRacing. This simulator is far too big to tackle at once, so I will create a string of smaller games that will allow me to build it over time. I am doing this as a business, and this requires balancing desires with risk and making tough decisions. It is difficult and risky to do games as a business since there are no financial stability or safety nets. This is why I'm doing it part-time while holding a full-time job as a software engineer. This allows paying the bills and hiring out contracts for art, audio, where it would improve the games. I went to Full Sail University for a bachelor degree in game design and development before working in the game industry for more than 5 years. I helped create games like Rock Band 3, Darkest of Days, Monster High, and many more before getting into the software for stability. To learn all the lessons, we must rewind time, back to the very start of 2018. Past Tim made a goal to create a game and release it for sale in 7 weeks. Yes, 7 weeks. Archer went from concept in January and was released as is in February. It was certainly rushed. This was a part-time, so I was able to spend about 25 hours a week on the project, and some of that time included puppy training. Here you come. Yeah, good job. The objective of the aggressively short time span was to set out and create many games in rapid succession and improve upon the weaknesses with the quick iterations. Around this time I heard a story of a pottery teacher who split their class in half. The first half was tasked with planning and creating one perfect bowl, while the other half was to create as many as they could. At the end of the class, the students that made loads of bowls had better results than the students who spent all their time on that perfect one. Learning through quantity, they surely had many bowls that were far worse as well. This story resonated with me, and I figured iterating over many, much smaller games would improve my skills the fastest. Upon releasing Archer to the public, I was ecstatic. Surely it was rough around the edges, but I did it. I made a game, and I released it. And other people were buying it. Oh my, it was a good plan. So I aimed to have another go, this time at 3D. I spent 2 months preparing my engine and workflow, tested it out in a couple Game Jam games, and then in June of 2018, I started Rally of Rockets, a simple 3D online multiplayer racing game with off-road rockets flying through the air shooting missiles at each other. Aimed to be completed in 4 months. Basic physics? Check. Super simple visuals? Check. Networking multiplayer? Check minus. Having fun? Check plus plus. The project was a blast. About a month after I started, I put Archer on sale and learned another valuable lesson. Quantity comes at the cost of quality. Did I really want a portfolio of mediocre, rushed games? No, absolutely not. When making a game so quickly, especially when doing it alone, quality, polish, and juiciness is going to suffer. The value for the player will be lower. As a business and selling games, giving value to your customers, the player, is important. With this lesson in mind, the 4-month as-is limit was changed into however long it takes to be reasonable. There is no reason to aim at perfection, but it needs to be good. The game needs to have value. Development continued at a reasonable rate, and I started having a lot of fun online playtests with viewers from my Twitch stream. I opened my itch.io dashboard one day and saw hundreds of people were downloading Rally of Rockets concept builds. This was very exciting and a bit odd since I never really posted about the game. What does a new player who never saw a stream or anything think when they try out the game? This lesson was learned. The first impressions of your game matter. If a player with no prior knowledge of you or your game downloads and plays your game, what is that first impression like? What feelings do they leave with? Even if your game is early in development, this first impression is still critical. In Rally of Rockets, I suspect the first impression was extremely confusing, and "This is broken" was written all over it. The single-player mode was a free drive, no AI competition. and multiplayer servers were only online during the planned playtests. Everything was rough. With that, I spent a month updating the user interface, menus, settings, adding an in-development notice that explains the state of the game, and it really improved the first impression. Later I discovered the hundreds of downloads was just a bug that itch.io had. I was extremely excited about Rally of Rockets. However, I put it on the shelf. I look forward to returning to it one day, but that day is not today. Next lesson is don't overscope yourself. When making games as a business, you need to be aware of the risks. Developing a game takes a lot of time and money. This must be weighed against potential returns. Building games as a business is inherently filled with risk, but it needs to be mitigated. When I removed the 4-month limit, the quality bar was lifted as intended, but the project was too big for that quality bar. The scope exploded. What was meant to be a 4-month project turned into at least a 2-year project for the reasonable quality, and that was too risky. Fact is, when considering the cost of time is money, Rally of Rockets was going to cost over $70,000 just for myself to work on. This does not even include buying assets or the nearly $1,000 I already invested of actual money. My confidence in selling games is still near zero. My best and currently only game has made $200 to date. It hurts to put a project on hold, but it was the right thing to do as a business. Mini lesson. Doing games as a business requires the hard choices to be made. The smartest move business-wise might be to put a project on hold until there is more confidence the risk will reap the rewards. Rally of Rockets. Put on hold. With that major shift, it took a few months before I found good tracks to follow again. I focused on learning and practicing elements that I am weak at. I took Gabriel's course, Finish Good Games That Sell, and drastically shifted my perspective where it needed to be. I knew a lot of the material there. However, Gabriel did a great job at organizing it and reminding me of the things I knew but didn't actively think about on a regular basis. Learning is motivational. If you are stuck in a ditch and not moving forward as well as you would like, trying to learn something new may be a great way to speed off in a high gear. Investing in a course adds an extra motivational bit to get the ball moving. It is a decision to spend money on something that will improve your abilities, and once spent, you don't get it back. For me, this added a positive pressure and pulled me out of the ditch I was in. It gives you a skill you can look forward to having. Pick the best idea from many game ideas. When coming up with an idea for your first or next game as a business, don't choose the first idea that comes to you. Brainstorm many ideas, like 15 or 20. Just a sentence or two on each idea, nothing detailed. From that list, find the ideas with the most potential for the player interest and development feasibility, and move them to the decent list. Add more details to those ideas, aiming mostly at how it would be attractive and how you would go about creating it. Finally, filter this list down again, add more details, and eventually wind up with a winner. This is the idea generation process I use to brainstorm TurboBoom. I started with 24 different ideas in my idea dump. Then I sorted those by attractiveness and feasible ideas. I had the favorite idea in my head, but continued with the process anyway. 24 dumpy ideas down to 8 decent ideas. After adding more details, 8 decent ideas down to 3 good ideas. Still, the favorite idea was in my head. When I dug deeper into the development feasibility and attractiveness of each of these 3 ideas, the favorite idea was actually the one that made the least sense business-wise. With the business hat on, I found the favorite idea was actually larger in scope and harder to develop, while the hidden gem lay in front of me. The TurboBoom idea was the easiest to develop and was a very attractive idea. TurboBoom was born. The plan with TurboBoom was to take 3 or 4 months to develop to get to release candidate ready. Since starting, it has already taken 4 months, and so is taking longer than desired, but otherwise it's on track. I am far enough into the process to have learned the next lesson. Small games are not bad games. Keeping the scope of your game extremely small, by saying no to as many features as possible, does not mean you are making a bad game. You don't need to add loads of mechanics and things for a game to be good. By focusing in on few features, they can shine more brightly. For TurboBoom, I said no to a lot of otherwise great features and idea suggestions. This kept focus on the essence of the game, time trialing on obstacle courses with explosives. This has kept the development speed fast and keeps things from being watered down. It took about 6 weeks to get the game feature complete, which included one of the stretch features, Ghost Cars. Most of that time was actually spent dealing with physics and leaderboards. I used Bullet for physics, but it was quite difficult to get the car drifting around, yet easy to control. Many iterations later, I had something pretty fun. The first playtest, with only a few tracks, had players competing for more than a week. The final lesson for now is monthly reviews are amazing. Every month since June 2018, I have reviewed each month of my adventure, taking a moment to look back and see what was accomplished, what was learned, how many hours are spent, and where, as well as financials. I highly recommend this for your game dev business. It is a very easy way to improve and stretch to do better. Stay on track by considering what goals you have for the next month and review those the following month. A year after doing this, and I have so many insights that I've picked up and have noticed a boost in confidence in things I'm not good at, like marketing. In early review, I wrote a note, "Marketing is my greatest weakness, and I have no clue how to approach this problem." Fast forward a few months, and I was able to successfully predict that an article I wanted to write was going to do well, and it did. Of course, I spent time in between reading articles and trying to improve, but the results are visible by taking a little bit of time at the start of each month to review the previous month's efforts. Make sure to like and subscribe for more tips and tricks you can apply to your own game development adventures. Learn from my efforts and get a boost up. Until later, have a good one.